Hello and welcome to our first Lunch and Learn focused on the City of Kansas City, Missouri's digital tools. We are today going to be talking about Open DataKC, which is our open data platform for the city and a great way to access information about the city. So I am going to pull up our site and spend most of the time demoing for you all. You should be able to enter in questions if you have them as we go along, and we will try to address those. We'll also be recording this so that we can share it in the future if you want to come back or you're coming back to this at a later time. So by way of introduction, my name is Kate Bender. I'm with DataKC, which is a division of the City Manager's Office, and we are focused on supporting the city and all of the departments and staff in using data for better outcomes, so to improve services, to assist residents. So one of our responsibilities is to oversee this open data portal. We also are connected to the Office of Citizen Engagement, which is also in turn connected to 311. So you'll hear references potentially to those groups, but really all of us are looking to support residents as they access resident city services. And we will hopefully be offering other lunch and learn events in this series, focus on other digital tools that residents can use. So before I will go ahead and dive into the actual open data website. So this is our Open DataKC homepage, and I'm going to actually start by scrolling down to the bottom to cover some basics. So down at the bottom here, I mentioned DataKC was our group. If you at any point want to learn more about us, you can click on this website. This is what you may have used to access our program today, but this will give you more feedback about our group and more information about the other programs and efforts we work on. Just to give you some background on open data as a concept, the purpose of open data is really, it's about providing a resource for residents and businesses. It's about providing transparency about city operations, and then a source of accountability, both for internal use for staff as well as for residents. And just waiting for this to come up here. There we go. The city launched our open data portal in 2013 and an open data policy soon thereafter. So if you're interested in learning more about our own history of open data, we do again have a link here at the bottom that will open some information for you about open data. The history, you can link to the policy here if you're interested in reading about that. And this kind of is a good resource to come back and refresh your memory, perhaps, about the things that you learned today. One other point of reference, we do use a vendor for this platform, for this website, called Socrata, which is used by many cities nationally and internationally. So if you see a reference to Socrata anywhere, that is actually the vendor name. So almost everything I'm going to show you today can be done as a visitor to the site, but you can also create an account if you want to save things, and we're going to talk about that more at the end. So as you'll see, there's a sign in button up here. I am not signed in right now, so I am just accessing this as anybody can access this website. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just walk you through our homepage because it's actually new. If you've been to Open Data before and remember how the site looked, that part of the site is really still the same. This is almost sort of just like a front page, a front door to the site. So you're going to see if you were familiar with the site, you're going to see kind of the old orientation very shortly. So kind of walking you through the different sections here. Up top, we have highlighted data sets. So we're really going to seek to highlight data sets here that are frequently used or, you know, very much of interest. Perhaps there are new issues that are coming to the forefront. So you can see here monthly car auction overview, which is actually very frequently utilized for people interested in buying cars from our tow lots that have been abandoned. Obviously, COVID-19 pandemic still very much of interest, so a link to the data that's available here. And then our 311 data set. There also, for those of you that maybe once you get to know open data and you want to go straight to a particular piece of information, you can actually just search for a data set here. So, and it is responsive. So if I start to type in here, crime, you can see there's kind of a general search, but it also actually pulls up the names of other data sets. So I can click on one of those and it will take me to the site and I can go to it. Scrolling down a little further here, we've got kind of the, I would say the meat of the home page, which is data sets by category. So each data set does have a category, or should have. We have a few that I think need to be put into new categories, but every data set is supposed to have a category. And these are the categories on our site that have the largest number of items in them. So there are a few other categories, but just highlighting the ones here that are kind of have the biggest number of things. And you will see on the internal, the browsing part of the site, you will see all the categories listed. You can see up here, we're not just talking about data sets. So we say charts, maps, and stories. So there are lots of visuals that are available on open data in addition to data sets. And then stories, which I'm going to spend a little time talking about, which are really visuals with context around them. So I'm going to show you, if I click on neighborhoods here, as an example, this is going to take us into the site and will bring up, as I mentioned, kind of that view that you might be more familiar with of the site. So this is called the browsing view. So up top, you can actually see the filter that I put. So this is the search. It's basically executed a search of the site by this category of neighborhood. You can also see over here, I've got my list of categories. So I can click on show all, and you can see there's an X next to neighborhoods indicating that that this filter is active for the search. And I could close that out if I decided I didn't want to search for data sets in this category anymore. You can also change the sort to give you the different, you know, if you've got a lot of options and you want to say you're looking for something that you know was recently added to the site. So we could decide to sort by that. And so this is bringing up for us a map that actually I recently created titled Land Bank and Homesteading Authority, or LB and HA on here, usable vacant lots and properties in fair or good condition. So this is going to take us to a map of these properties. Second to render, you can see it coming in, and when we're zoomed out like this, we've got kind of big blobs, but as we zoom in, we start to see dots come up. And if I pull up the legend, you can see what these different colors mean. So this is basically a view of current land bank and homesteading authority properties that are either usable vacant land or structures in good or fair condition. So this was in response to a request someone had to help show us what in our inventory, you know, might be utilizable for housing. So if I'm going to go back to the home page. So I'm still walking you through that. So I've actually got a link right up here that I can click on to take me back to the home page. So that is kind of the category view of how to access. You'll recall that's how we got to this data set here. We could have, of course, searched for, if we knew what we were looking for, we could have searched for here as well. If I scroll on down to data dashboards, this is actually an area where we're highlighting other data sets, some of which aren't hosted on open data, but are still crucial to the city. And so I'll open up the COVID-19 dashboard here. It may take a minute to load. It's actually hosted on another program called Arcgis. But again, we're going to seek to keep these updated with dashboards as we build them, and that are, highly relevant to residents, so things that are, currently of interest or currently topics of conversation. We may be doing another lunch and learn to talk about the resident survey and that dashboard, because that is something that will be updated later this summer with our resident survey results. So the COVID-19 dashboard, you may be familiar with it. We launched this version of it in January, and so this is where our health department is putting up information about all things current about COVID-19. So cases, testing, vaccination rates, maps, charts, all taking a little bit long to load right now. So we will let that load and come back to it. Scrolling on down here with our back down to the bottom, so this fourth section that we already touched on a little bit. We've got a few other resources here that might be relevant to you. So suggest a data set will take you to a form. So if you have looked and you can't find the data set that you're interested in, or maybe you've come across a data set elsewhere, and would like to see us see if the city of Kansas City, Missouri can do something similar, you can fill out a quick form and send us that suggestion. Similarly, sunshine requests are requests for data or information that might not be something that is currently hosted on open data, or maybe it's something that is a public record but doesn't have, it has some privacy implications, so we're not going to probably be publishing it to open data, but it's still available upon request. So this will take you to a site where you can enter a request, you can check the status of the request, and get kind of information about that process. Over here to the right, we have two other really important resources, 311. I'll just give a quick plug and say that 311 has a new web application and mobile application available that we are still really working to implement and improve upon, but really a big upgrade for us from our past 311 app, easier to use and more accessible. So encourage you to check that out. And then Parcel Viewer is actually a map application that is good for really digging in, I think, especially on specific properties. So if there's a property that you want to know who owns it, or what the zoning is, or a little bit about the history of it, you can click on that and take you to Parcel Viewer, and it will allow you to access some of that information on a parcel by parcel basis. So looks like our COVID dashboard may have frozen over here. So, oh, no, here it is coming up. So again, we've got these as they load, you'll see the different charts. And again, we, build out different data, access to different data in different platforms. So this one is in ArcGIS, and it has a couple of maps with the case rate and the vaccination. It also has the charts to show the status. And then over here, we've got just some summary information about cases over the last week, last 7 days, vaccination rate down here. Coming in a little slowly. And then the charts up here. So this information is updated on a weekly basis, so a good resource for residents wanting to track the current status of the things around the pandemic. So from here, since I've sort of given you an overview of the homepage, we're going to actually dive into the system, the kind of meat and potatoes of open data. So I'm going to click on 311 to get us started. And again, this is going to bring us back to that same view that is has the, it is basically done a search of everything that has a category of 311. or on this browsing page here. And you'll see on this one, we actually have some featured content up front, which is something that we're going to look to configure for all of our categories, just to help, it's sort of similar to the home page, putting featured content up top. This is featured content within a category. So before I actually get to the data sets, which I think may be the thing most people are familiar with, I said that I wanted to talk about a fairly new feature of the site, which is called stories. So these are a really good resource for anyone who's seeking information. And whether you're somebody who likes to work with data sets on your own, or if you just would like to see kind of the end result. So I'm going to show you another way to search over here to filter your search. I'm going to click on stories. 311 is already selected. And so that should kind of limit my search further. Now, I didn't look at how many results I had before, but it was a lot more than 4. Now it's got several stories that are related. So I'm going to click on this one down here, 311 monthly report, which was created by our staff member, Erica Good, who is on the call today listening in, as well as David Reynolds, also from from DataKC. So I wanted to show you this report because this one actually was built sort of for an internal audience, but it is public facing and for anyone to see, but it does not have quite as much context around it, so you're not going to see a lot of text in here. However, I think a lot of the charts kind of speak for themselves, and it does have a lot of different types of charts on it, which is nice. So up top here, we have a chart of monthly call volume. So this is people calling 311. And you can see this is most of the charts on and the maps on our open data portal are kind of responsive to hovering over them. So I can hover over these different bars and it'll give me the label of the month, and this is calls received and calls handled. This chart you can see looks like it ends January 2019, but it's actually longer than that. They're just kind of compressing it giving you one view of it. So I just dragging it over to go to the last full month of data we have, which is May, since we're almost at the end of June here, and we'll be adding June data shortly. So you can see the abandonment rate. You can in here the calls received and the calls handled, and kind of see that over time. Most charts also on, you'll see on open data, there's an option for a summary table, as well as going to the source data set. So that's a nice linkage down to the data set. This one is showing a monthly 311 request by source. So this is starting in March, because as I mentioned, we recently launched our new system. So this is since the inception of that system, and it shows broken down by whether requests are coming in via phone, via web, via one of the mobile apps, iOS, Android, and some other assorted sources. This is showing, this is a bar chart that shows a count of open 311 requests by issue and sub-issue. Adjust this a little bit just to, it's a little bit more visible. And this chart kind of shows a nice feature, which is you can have a drill down component. So there's actually, this is the issue type that's shown, but we also have a sub issue. So for instance, if we want to, look at, okay, so there's 1,715 street maintenance requests open. If I click on this, it will take me down to the next level and tell me specifically what types of requests are those. So the vast majority are potholes, 844. Another one that's just called maintenance, mowing on the right of way, ditch cleaning, and so on. And I can go back up and reset it to the earlier version. So kind of nice interactivity there. Average days to complete, similar. This is showing us how many days on average it's taking to complete these different issues. Again, if I click on, for instance, Parks and Rec, so it's telling you it's 21-day average days to close for parks and rec issues in general. But if you dig in, you can see there's a little bit of a differentiation from 32 days for graffiti down to 1 day for aquatic facility and 7 days for general maintenance concern. So kind of shows the breakout there. Average days for open cases, very similar. So this is for cases that are currently open. And all of these charts, I should say, are being updated dynamically when the data updates. So when the data updates, it is flowing right into these visuals, and you will see changes in all these values accordingly. And finally, the map down here, very busy right now. This is showing all open requests. We click on the legend. It's showing us, it's basically in 2 different colors. We're still resolving some of our different statuses, trying to collapse them a little bit. But basically blue are things that are closed, and red or orange that are things that are still open. This map actually is an interactive filter, which is kind of nice. This allows the map to be a little bit more useful rather than just looking at tons and tons of dots here. If I'm, for instance, interested in illegal dumping, I can apply that. And all of a sudden, you know, quite a few less. Maybe, though, what I'm really interested in is not illegal dumping in general across all time, but this week, what has been entered in. So just a handful here. And you can see actually that it looks like, you know, this would make sense now that we have a lot fewer. It is showing all these cases are still open because they were just open this week. So that's just giving you kind of an overview of the stories and the different charts you can find there. If I go back, if I click on the logo up here, it's actually going to take me back to that browse view, not back out to the home page, since I just want to sort of stay in this browsing view right now. But if once this loads, I will show you, you can really go straight to stories using the search here. Again, just clicking on stories. Now I'm not filtered to just 311. This is all stories. And so you can see we have 7 total. So like I said, it's a new feature, and so we are still building these out, but we really are hoping to build out stories to support more data sets, because we know that a lot of times, it's not going straight to the data set isn't the easiest way to figure out key information. So the more that we can kind of put some visuals out there and put some context, the easier it will be for people to access. So I'm going to move on from stories now to talk about the data sets. So perhaps something that all of you have been, maybe a key reason that you joined this webinar today is to understand how to actually work with this data. So I am going to, I'm going to search for, so showing you the search bar here, which is similar, just the same as the one out on the main homepage. I don't know if we had a recent article about dangerous buildings in the city that was written, and where they used some data from the Open Data Portal. So thought that would be a timely data set to talk about. So I'm just searching for dangerous buildings, and it's going to bring up the same search. Knowing what to search for, if you don't have a specific keyword, I think categories and types of views can be a useful way to look for that. You may need to try a couple different keywords to find something. You can see all of these have tags on them, where it's something I think we're constantly trying to improve upon is our metadata, which is part of what these tags are, so the descriptors. Because if we don't have good descriptors for a data set, it's going to be harder for people to find, but that is something we're working on. So I did this search. You can see it came up with 41 results. That might be more than I was thinking I would find if I was looking for this topic. Scrolling down, I do want to show you something on the second page here that gives you, just an idea of how, if I'm searching for something, how would I differentiate between all of these different things? Because, not knowing anything maybe about this topic. So one thing you can look for, and this is something that may be useful to you for other reasons, is if you see this community tag here next to Indian Mound Dangerous Buildings Map, that actually means that this is a view or visualization that was made by someone in the community. So not a city staffer, but could be neighborhood leader, resident, business owner. But that's kind of a good way to keep an eye on, okay, is this something that was created internally by the city and put out, or is this something that was created by the community? But so looking through, maybe I don't want to take all the time to scan through all of these. I really want to get to the core dangerous buildings data set. And one way that I can do that is I can actually filter this by data sets. Since a lot of these, as you'll see, are charts or maps or other types of resources. And, we'll say in this case that I'm really looking for that core data set. So that definitely did its job. We now have 4 results here. So a lot less. And we still, still the question of, okay, which one of these is authoritative? How do I know where to look? So a couple of clues you can use. You can see they all say data set over here, but we can look at the update date. So this one at the bottom is a little older. Maybe it's not being updated regularly. Maybe it's something that we should even think about taking off the site to take a look at. Whereas up here, these are data sets that were updated today. So we do have a lot of data sets that are updated on a daily or regular basis. So if something's updated regularly, that suggests maybe it is a key or authoritative data set. This also has a lot of views. So compared to the others, this suggests to me that this might be the one that I want to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, which is going to take me to the kind of overview page for the data set. And this is also called the primer page. So if you see a reference to that. So some information here. So if you'll see, you don't see any data right away. This is a view. This is sort of the navigation of the site now. It takes you first to this page in case maybe you want to get some information about the data set before you actually look at all of the numbers and rows and columns, which you can do by going to view data. But just to show you, take you through this page a little bit. You've got the title and the category. You've got some descriptors here. Going down again, some of that same information we saw before about views and when it was updated. It actually, if you scroll all the way down, if you're not sure if you want to look at this and load it into your browser, you've got a listing of the columns and sort of a description of what those columns mean. And then you actually have a table preview down here. So this is actually giving you a little glimpse into what you're going to access when you click on view data. So there's quite a bit of information. You also see related content down here. So quite a bit of information on this page, even before you go into view data. We are going to talk about visualizing as well, but going to view the data first. There's also a few other options here. You can actually export straight from here. I'll talk about that from the view data page. API, which is good for, if you're a developer and wanting to access the data through that route. There's also some options to contact the dataset owner, comment, share, access by other routes. So lots of information available from this page. So as we go into the dataset view, and if you were ever if you're somebody who worries about, well, what if I mess something up? What if I access this data set and change something? So, as it is right now, I'm not signed in. I can't do anything. I can't make any edits. If you are signed in and you click on something or the system interprets that you're trying to edit it, it won't actually let you edit the data set itself unless you're the owner of it. So it would actually come up with a save draft button. And so that's how you would know if something got changed, but there's no worry about changing the underlying data set. So again, the data set view, you've got columns across the top. If there are a lot of columns, you are going to have a scroll bar here. As it is, we can actually see all of them in this width. And then you've got rows. So the system shows us 100 rows at a time, but it tells you down here at the bottom how many total rows there are. So there's 360, and we can page through the different views if we would like to. So maybe a common thing people might want to do is filter the data. So this is 360 rows, which isn't crazy, but it is, as we saw, 4 pages worth. You know, some of our data sets are tens of thousands large, or hundreds of thousands. So in that case, a filter view is probably going to be a lot more useful for you. So if I click on the filter button here, basically this is just letting me create some criteria based on one of my columns here. So I can click on add a new filter condition, and I can say that, so the status of case here, I'm only interested maybe in the status of the case. Maybe I'm interested in dangerous buildings that are repair cases. So where there's actually ongoing efforts by the owner to repair the property. And there's different operations or kind of logic elements to use here. Is going to be the most specific. You have to exactly match. So a lot of times I'll use instead something like contains, because then if I spell something or something's a little bit off, it's not going to penalize me for it. So I clicked repair, did the check mark. You saw some movement, but you also see now it says showing all 16 rows. So that did do the filter operation for me. I don't know if you also saw up top, we got a little message that said changes won't be saved unless you sign in. So telling me, I can continue to do this, but if I wanted to save this, I currently can't unless I'm I could filter. This is 16 rows, which seems pretty manageable, but maybe I was still at 1,000 rows and I wanted to filter further. You can actually add other filter conditions. So maybe I'm most interested in a single council district. Maybe I'm interested in Council District 5. And so, lost our check mark there, but you can see the filter operation did occur. So now we're down to 2 rows that meet both of these criteria. So, at this point, if you wanted to use this information, you're not signed in, but you still can export it. So whether or not you're signed in. So if you quick and dirty, you want to access the data set, get it to the points that you're really interested in, click on export, click on CSV is a common one, and you can see it come down here and just download it straight into my browser here. So, and I could open that in Excel. You can also use CSV for Excel, pretty similar. And then you can see other formats here, some of which are specific to shape files and other types of files. So if you are signed in, you actually can save this filtered view. That will be an option for you. And it will, again, like the visualizations, dynamically update if you come back to it. So, a month from now, if there are a couple more properties in the 5th district that are repair cases, you'll see this list grow, or maybe one of these has been resolved and it comes off the list. So it's a really nice way to kind of bookmark a view of a data set that you might be interested in. And you can certainly share it with others as well. Take that URL here. This URL is, it will update if I save it as a view, and then that you can send that to other people. A few other just sort of navigations on this. I went through filter and export, which I think are 2 of the most commonly used. About is going to pull up for you really a lot of similar information that is on the, as you can see, it's directing you back toward that main page actually. Embed is an option you have if you've got, if you want to get the code for, especially for a visual, and embed it on a website or something that you have. You have to be signed in. That's a function for that, but that's an option. Discuss. Some data sets have comments people have made. Again, not possible if you're not signed in, but if you're interested in sort of what the discussion has been around a data set. And then more views. So the system, like many websites, has lots of different ways of doing the same thing. And so this is kind of taking you back again to all of the different views that are available of this particular data set. So different filters other people have used, maps, etc. So sometimes that's a good place to go if you're not really sure what you're looking for, or if someone has already created a visual like this. And my colleagues reminding me that your view will have to be published to the public in order to share or embed. And I'll show you that when we get to the point of creating a visualization. So going from here to the actual visualization engine, which I think is a really powerful thing and very useful to people who are looking to use open data. It's actually improved a lot over the last few years. If you used an older version of the site, this was a lot harder to utilize, less assistance in doing it. So, and I should say this, so I'm using the button here. If I had clicked visualize from that main overview, it would have taken you the same place. So click on launch new visualization. And when I pull this up, so I was actually working off of that filter that I had created. That was what was on my screen at the time. But when I pull up this visualization, it's actually going to take me back to the full data set. So not just my view. So it is prompting me here actually to sign in. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that just to show you. That'll allow me to show you how you can save a visualization at the end. So I'm going to click on the sign in here. And this will also let me show you the page that you can use to create an account. So I've got all of my information populated, but if you did not have an account and you clicked on that, you could click here to sign up. It is very, very quick to do that. So when I sign in, it is actually going to take me back to that visualization page. And then we can start trying to create a visual off of this data set. So you can see, I mean, they're even sort of walking you through here, 2 ways to get started. Select a chart type to see recommended dimensions, or select a dimension. So what they mean by this is maybe you already know I want to create a map or a bar chart or a pie chart. So here's where those options are here. Maybe instead you know the dimension, which is what they're calling kind of the column, the field. Maybe you know which of these elements you're interested in working with, and so you're starting from that. So from the point of dimension, say that I knew I was interested in council district. If I select that, it will actually start populating a chart, but it also highlights these little green dots up here, tells me it's the system sort of analyzing that data and telling me which one that is most appropriate. So, and I can kind of click between them to modify it. So this is showing a breakdown by council district. If you're thinking, why isn't map showing up here? I'm actually going to show you how to do a map by council district because it's slightly different. But in this case, rather than use council district, I actually just want to create a map of this data. So I'm going to go ahead and click on map here. And when I do, in this case, so you can only create a map. It's only an option if you have a location field in your data set, which we do. In fact, we really have just one combined data set, or one combined location field called location. We also have a lat long, but that's basically what the location's working off of. And so when I selected map, the system is smart enough to just pull location into the column, the geo column here, and map it for me. You can also see it sort of resized and sent me off to the west. I think we have one point in here that has a rogue address or geocode, and it thinks it's somewhere not in Kansas City. So, but I'm just zoomed in on actually Kansas City where our points really are. So once I have this, so this is giving me the point map. Lots of options to modify this. So that's where you're dealing with this menu over here. So one option might be that maybe I would like the dots to be a different color based on some element. And that is called style by value. So maybe I want to use that status of case to differentiate. So I pick status of case here. And I will see my points change. And if I go over here and click on the legend to open it up, I can actually see that it has assigned different colors based on the different statuses that I have. If, I think I like that, but I'm not big on those colors. I can click on color over here, and there are a number of palettes that you can choose from. You also can go down here and select custom. And then now all of a sudden I have direct control over the order that these are in, as well as the different colors that are available. So I can pick from any of the color palettes or actually just type in the X code here. So, and there's also icons, as you can see. So that's another option for doing your visualizations. So another thing I might want to do with my map, besides kind of doing something with the points or the icons, I can, and I should point out point size too. You can scale your point size. These are already scaled down, but if you wanted them to be bigger. But something else I might want is maybe I want, when I hover over this or click on it, I would like it to tell me something about it. That's a really pretty common function on a digital map. So there's two little subsections over here titled flyout. The first one is actually it's basically, it wants to know what each of these points represent. So in the case of this data set, it's a dangerous building. And so multiple of them would be dangerous buildings. So now that I've done that, it should update the flyout to tell me, so you can see, yeah, it's telling me 27 dangerous buildings broken down. And there's a big list here because I'm fairly zoomed out still. So when I click on something, it's just sort of guessing and giving me everything that's in the general vicinity of my point. If I zoom in a little more, I'll be able to click on individual points. But maybe in addition to just getting counts, I'd like to get information about a point. So the most, a lot of times on a map, the thing you're most interested in is what's the address. So I'm going to put that in my flyout title. But I can add other things here. Maybe I'd like to know the date that the case opened. And maybe I'm going to go ahead and put that status of the case as well. So as soon as I do that, I can go over here and now voila, I've got the title, the case open, the status of the case. And I can and again, if I'm over in a place that has more than one, it's going to give me that kind of aggregate message, but anytime I have an individual one, it'll give me that. So those are two, I'd say, pretty common things you might want to do on a map. Of course, if you're working with a chart, you've got options to do similar things with color and labels and such, but this kind of shows you the map navigation, but all of your options are going to be over here for configuration. I mentioned that, a lot of people, when they don't really want a point map. They really want to show it in some other geography. So that's this section over here titled point aggregation. So right now we're not doing any. One type of point aggregation that some people like to use is a heat map. So if I click on that, again, it's going to zoom me out here, but if I go back to our main location. So you can see the heat map rendering on here of where the buildings sort of are. So that's kind of an interesting, view showing you the kind of the concentration. I can also, however, do a map with custom boundaries. So council districts is one that we talked about. So there's several that are preloaded in here. council districts, counties, neighborhoods, and zip codes. So once I did that, you can see it brought me back, and now all of a sudden I don't have those points anymore. They have added them up, and they are telling me now how many is in each of these council districts, along with the council district label. And if I click on legend, you can see my legend now has changed. It's not visualizing the status anymore. It's instead telling me what the range is for the count. And I can modify this as well. I can change my color down here. So, and similarly, maybe I just changed my mind. I decided I wanted to look at this by zip codes. I'll do that instead. And now you can see what it looks like on a zip code basis. So again, and the legend is responsive, so it's updating, based on the range of, numbers of cases that you have. So one other function on the visualizations that is really useful that you actually saw when we were looking at the charts is filters over here. And so here's where you can actually, again, limit the data set just to a few things that you would like to include. So in this case, I actually am interested in adding a filter based on case opened. So I'd like to be able to limit what I'm seeing here based on the case open date. So when I added that, it gives me two different options: a range or a relative date. Before I actually populate it, I'll show you. If you click on these three dots, this is kind of the controls on the filter. So this is where you say, do you want it to be multiple values or a single value? So in this case, with time, it's a day as a single value. But if I was using status, I could put in multiple statuses, or maybe I only want to select one. And then filter visibility, if you save your visualization and provide it to other people, if you keep this on interactive, that means anybody will be able to use this filter and interact with it. Maybe instead you want to limit the data and you don't necessarily want that to be something that people can change. So you can click on hidden. And so that will keep your filter, but viewers can't modify it. So let's say that I want to look at just dangerous buildings, maybe that have come about since the pandemic started. So I'm going to roughly 315, and then we'll say today, and I'll click apply here. And so you saw a little bit of movement on there. Now if I go over to my legend, you can see these numbers have come down quite a bit from the, and also if I scroll down here, my number of dangerous buildings has actually changed down here. So, so again, this is an interactive filter right now. So anybody who accessed this would be able to play around with the dates, and you can create more than one as well. So now that I have my visual created, I'm going to actually save the draft. Again, if you are not signed in, it will only stay back to data set and you'll lose all that work you did. So, definitely think about creating an account. And we'll call this dangerous buildings app by zip code. And I will save that. And once I save it, and this is where your navigation might look a little different for me. If you're looking, various parts of my screen, I have administrator access, so I might have a few more options. And the staff view of this also looks slightly different than the public view of this, but same basic functionality of saving a visual. And then as this comes up, so I did save it, you can still see though it's still in draft form here. And this is what my colleague mentioned earlier. So before this is really viewable, I've got to publish it. And I can, right now, this one's only giving me a public option because it is a public data set, I believe. But so if I click on public, and I think if you were using it, I don't think you would see submit for approval, because members of the community can go ahead and create live visuals on their own. But once I do that, it is basically done. And then once it comes up, I will show you. So say that so again, this says private and public approval requested, which is not something you would probably see, but I no longer see the draft link. This is a published element. Right now, for me, it's only available internally. And you can save things internally as private. But if I'm, say, signing back in, I don't remember the URL. I remembered searching for dangerous buildings. There were a whole bunch of options. I want to find this quickly. I can actually go to my profile when I sign in. So I clicked on the little head option here. And this will actually take me straight to a list of my assets. And this one is at the very top because it is the newest one that I've created. So if I'm coming back to this later and I think, oh, you know what, I want to change something about that. Somebody gave me some feedback, or I decided to add something. I can click on it, bring it up, and then you will see that you're back in the view where you actually have an edit button here. And this is how I can go in to the visual and make edits to it and then save it over again so that I have it looking the way I want it. So that we are coming up on the 1 o'clock hour, and that more or less takes us to the end of our time. But we appreciate you joining us for our first Lunch and Learn. We would also appreciate you giving us some feedback in the way of a survey, which we will try to get out to you all. If you did not sign up in advance, we don't have your contact information. You can access the survey on our DataKC webpage, which is kcmo.gov/data. But we are looking to do more of these, so we would love to know, what you think we did well or what we could do better. So thanks again, and happy data usage on open data. And of course, feel free to reach out to us, data@kcmo.org, if you have any questions about any of this, or just questions in general about open data. Thanks again.